All right, my battery died on me yesterday, so that outlet underneath is where the dishwasher will be plugged in. It has a separate circuit, and the only other thing that's on there is an outlet above the counter, and it's a ground fault outlet because it's near the sink. And then goes up to another outlet that will be inside the upper cabinets that I can plug in LED lights that will be above the cabinet between the ceiling just for like mood lighting. And then I have a circuit running over here. This is where the refrigerator is going to go, and will be plugged in this outlet. And then power goes up to a junction box, and then over to another outlet, countertop outlet, and then a switch that goes up to the pot lights in the ceiling. And then I have more circuits that run along the walls here and then up to this part of the counter. And these are small appliance circuits. It's a 3-wire, so every other wire goes to every other outlet, so you don't overload the whole circuit with all the small appliances. And then another switch that goes up to more pot lights up here in the ceiling. And more switches that go to more lights, junction boxes. And then over here, another junction box, and it goes down to another switch. This is a 3-way switch that will be attached to the main overhead light. There's going to be an overhead light over here too, above the bar area, counter bar. And what I'd like to find is some kind of maybe a tulip shade sort of looking light, and then the main light have a same design, only a little bit larger up here. And then the power goes into the pantry area and more pot lights up above. And the other thing that I've been working on that I have to get in place before I can finish the wiring is the main staircase. So I'm working on that right now. I had to move the temporary stairs, which were over there, and that was fun doing it by myself. And I had to move it down underneath this beam and then back up here. And so I still have stairs while I'm working on the new stairs. These will come down to a landing, and I've got a pressure treated base that the landing will be built on. There'll be one step up to the landing and then the other steps up to the top. And that takes a lot of mathematics, trying to figure out the right tread, rise, and the run of the stairs and how many you need. All right, so I need to get myself back to work. All right, this is the latest on the stairs. I've got everything leveled in place, and the final step, pardon the pun, is attaching these little triangle riser and run pieces. Now some people will build stairs and they'll take like a 2x12 and then cut away into it for the steps, and then that leaves you with about a 2x4 that's actually bracing the whole length, supporting it. I would rather do it this way. These are 2x10s, which are actually about 9 1/4, and then I'll nail these on And then there'll be a strand board covering everything, and then the hardwood boards will go on top of that. So that's why there's a gap in between, because of the thickness of these coverings on top, and then here, and then on top again, and then here. So it took a lot of measuring, figuring out. I knew because the rise and the run have to be within certain inches. You don't want a step to be too high or too deep. And I knew there would be 12 steps. So it was a matter of just figuring out the size, and it took a lot of measuring and then cutting out little templates. And you can see all the marks I have on here where I thought I had the right, and then it didn't quite fit until I finally got the right combination. These are the templates I've ended up with. These will correspond to these, and I also marked on here the angle to drill the holes for the nails, and I use a heavier, longer nail on the bottom and then the one on the top. So the diameter of the holes are different. This is a little smaller diameter than this because this is a heavier nail. So I've got 2 drill bits that I have to drill each one of these out. But I want everything ready to go, and I don't want to just nail through this wood because it could split, because it's such a small piece and it's close to the edge. And then I lay down a bead of glue. I fashioned this little jig here so I can clamp it in place while I tap in the nails, get them started. And I attach the ones on this side first, and then I use the level, hold it across to position this one, get it in the right spot, and then I mark it and attach it. And then the third one in the middle goes last. I just hold it up underneath the level, just slide it up till it's touching the level, and then mark it and attach it. So that's that for now. I got to finish this up and then put all the strand board sheathing on. And then I've got all my hardwood boards I've got to bring to the mill to have them planed just on one side. I've got a planer, but it's just way too much work, and the planer I have is kind of small. It's okay for little jobs. So that's that, and I guess I need to get back to work. Okay, this is the latest on the main staircase construction. What I originally intended to do is, once I had the stringers in place and then the little riser and run triangles all leveled and attached, was to cover this sheathing of strand board. It's cheaper than plywood, but even the strand board these days is ridiculously expensive. But that was going to go on top, and then the hardwood boards would go on top of that. Once again, I've got to get those milled down to plain smooth. But then I realized that the span in between is enough where there's flexibility when you step on it. So the stairs have to be stronger. So I decided to go back and put 2x4 braces all the way up before I put the sheathing and the hardwood boards on. And I've also got to put in between the squares here of the platform, I'm going to put another 2x4 brace. Better to be safe than sorry later. So that's what's happening now. So I better get back to work. This is what I've been working on the last few days. I'm planing hardwood maple and cherry boards to use for the staircase and for flooring and for cabinetry. I had intended to just bring the boards to a mill just to save time and have them plane them, but apparently a lot of the mills are closing around here, and the ones that are still open don't do any custom work. So I'm using my own little tabletop planer, and if the blade's dull, I'll just get them either sharpened or replaced. But I need these hardwood boards. These are some trees that I had cut off my land over the years and milled them out, and thought it would be simple enough to just get them processed when the time came, but nothing's simple anymore. All right, there's enough sawdust here if I glued it together to make a dozen more boards or more. All right, back to my work. Okay, here is the latest in the stair construction. I am now putting on the strand board over the framework. I cut the riser and runner boards, but I didn't cut them all just one size to fit all, because the stairs are not exactly even. You know, when you're building a stone house, it's not like one of these stick-built homes where everything is factory cut and made. You want to make sure you measure before you cut. You know, the old rule, measure twice, cut once. Well, with me, it's measure 4 times, cut twice. So what I did is, everything is the length of the largest step, which it kind of, the wall goes in a little bit and out because it's stone, and it's not going to be within a 1/16 of an inch like stick-built houses can be. When you're building the way I'm building, a lot of contractors and carpenters will get some blueprints that are drawn up by an architect, and then they just go by that and cut everything and nail it all together. But with this type of construction, I drew my own blueprints, but they're the basics, and then as I do each section, I refine it and figure it out. I do a lot of drawing as I'm working. Like, here's some drawings of the steps and the dimensions of boards and coverings, and just some more drawings of what the steps are supposed to look like. So anyway, once I get all the strand board in place, and then the hardwood will go over, and it'll be probably, I don't have boards wide enough to cover the entire step, so it'll be 2 boards. It'll go underneath. Of course, it'll be this way, but the second board will be notched, and it'll fit, so it runs underneath, and then the riser boards will be attached so that they fit perfect. They meet. They also, the runner boards, the steps, are going to extend over the edge. Think about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. And then this corner is going to be rounded down with my router. I've got a router table set up, kind of like this drawing I did here. So that'll be done before it's nailed down. And then underneath, I'll have a 1/4 inch round that'll be attached from the bottom. So it'll look like a bull nose rounded all the way, and it'll make it look like the hardwood board is thicker than it actually is. And then on the side, there's going to be a long board that I've planed out that'll trim the outside and then be sheetrock the rest of the wall down. And then also there's going to be another board that I planed a little thinner that will fit back here. These are just temporary pieces that I've got in place so that when I'm nailing these in place, I don't attach it too far over, because I got to leave that space. And this is going to be one long board. It'll go down. It's kind of like a kick plate or a baseboard, but it'll sort of match just a trim design. So that board will match the one that goes on this end. And of course, it's going to be all light natural maple on the tops, and then the trim boards on the side. And then the risers underneath are going to be all cherry. So you'll have that two-toned look. And of course, the cherry has beautiful green. It'll be a little darker than the maple when it's finished. Alrighty, I must get back to work. I can hear my dog barking at noises in the woods. Okay, talk to you later. Alright, I've got the strand board sheathing almost done on all the stairs. I've got one last piece. I just wanted to make a little note about everything is leveled except for the very top step. The floor up here kind of slopes up towards the wall slightly, about 1/8 of an inch. So I had to cut some shims to level one end of this final step. It's not going to make a difference. It's when you step down from that step to the next step, that 1/8 of an inch on that one side isn't going to trip anybody up. So, and it'll make it better when I put the hardboards on top, the hardwood. So I've got everything ready to, beads of glue, and then the step, everything is marked. Little red circles where big nail heads are, so when I put on the final hardwood boards, I won't strike a nail someplace. And then I put little blue X's everywhere I wanted to nail it down. And I am ready to finish this up. And then I've got to finish the landing and that final step, and then start on the hardwood. Okay, back to work. Alright, I am now attaching the hardwood boards to the stairs. These are cherry boards, and these are going to go on the face of each step. And the 3 stair runners, the boards are notched 3 places to fit over the stair runners. And the cuts that I'm doing on this bench saw, they're an angle cut because of the angle of the runners, and this is the easiest way to do it. So I've set up stoppers on the saw, and then I've set the blade at a certain height so that when you run this onto it, it'll be just at the right angle it needs to be. And then I go back in with the little plunge saw and cut out these little notches. And that's it so far. And this is how the cherry boards are being attached to the stairs. These are the notches here, angles, and they fit over these stringers. And then there'll be a second cherry board on top, and then maple boards will go on the top of this and then overhang the edge by about an inch. And with the router, I'm going to round over, bullnose the edge. And then underneath, I'm going to have a tiny strip of cherry wood, and then I'm going to have a quarter round piece that comes up in maple, or light natural, and that'll extend around the edges. So I'll get more done and then record some more so you can see how it looks. Ah, hello! Alrighty, I have got all the cherry boards attached to the riser part of the stairs now, and I filled in all the nail holes, and I've got the vacuum attached to my sander, and I am just giving it one more coat, kind of evening up the edges and sanding down the putty, and then I will wash them down and then put a coat of stain on, and then I will start putting on the maple boards. But I wanted to get the cherry stained because once the maple is attached on the tops and then the trim boards along the sides, it's all going to have a clear coat, and it'll put a clear coat over the cherry also. All right, time to get back to work again. I have got the cherry riser boards all in place, sanded and stained, and then there'll be a clear finish after. And then I've got one of the maple trim boards inserted on the side here, and this one I had to plane the heck out of it to get it to the right thinness, and it just fit down perfectly. And then the sheetrock will come down like that, meeting it, so there'll be a little bit of a ledge or overhang of the wood. And now I'm doing the other maple wood trim piece on this side, and I had to make a couple of templates out of cardboard to get the right angles from the bottom and the top, and do a lot of measuring. I use this little tool here to get the angles, and now I've got it clamped in place. I'm going to take a pencil on the inside and then draw and cut out all these little steps, and then when that's done and attached, then I'll start working on the steps to the top themselves, the treads, and that'll be natural maple also. It's going to have a bullnose edge, thin strip of brown cherry trim in the middle, and then underneath another bullnose. So it'll look like one thick tread, but it's actually thinner wood. But it's just as strong because I've got the hardwood base underneath. And then I went back on all these runners and I notched out so that the tread boards will fit. I don't have to do any notching on the tread boards. And I use my little plunge cutter tool. These things are great. I use this all the time. It's a great tool. Alright, now I've got to get back to work, and I'll do some more filming later. Alright, this is the next step in constructing the steps. This is the final trim piece. I had measured and remeasured and remeasured and drew, and then I finally cut out all the notches out of this board and then sanded all the edges. I would put it in place and then remeasure anything that needed to be trimmed and cut a little bit more. But it's all ready to be attached. I cut the notches out. In fact, this is one of the notches here, which I'm going to reuse in these two spots here as trim boards. But I use my new little handheld circular saw. It works great for this. I needed the cuts to be very even, and the jigsaw is good for these type of things, but the thin little blade tends to wobble a little back and forth when you're cutting, so you don't get a precise cut, where a circular blade like this will give you a good 90-degree angled cut. So I would use that up to a point and then finish in the corners with the jigsaw. So the next thing I have to do now is mark with pencil where the nails are going to go, and put a bead of glue on the inside, put it in place, and then nail it in. And then the last thing I've got to do with these stairs is just the top tread boards themselves. All right, back to work. All right, the outside maple trim board on the stairs is attached now, and it overhangs so that when the sheetrock walling is up, I can put a piece of fancy trim along the edge here. And now I'm putting in the maple trim boards around the edge of the platform here. And then once that's finished up, I'll start putting down the maple floor and the tread tops, all in maple, of course. And then the tread boards are going to overhang. They're going to have like a bullnose edging. Take with the router, and then underneath I'm going to have this. It's hard to do things with this thumb brace on. This piece will go underneath a strip, and then these will both be maple, and then there'll be a little strip in between the two of the cherry, thin cut piece of cherry. So just this little strip contrast will be kind of pretty. And eventually, when I do the spiral staircase over from the kitchen up to the master bedroom, it's going to be over in that corner, it'll have the same kind of look, the natural maple and cherry wood spiral staircase. All right, back to work. Working on the top maple tread boards of the stairs now. I've got them almost all done. Well, the first board, each step is going to be made up of 2 boards, but this one has got the most precise cuts and angles. Has to be put in first. But there's a lot of very precise measuring and hand filing. The edges are routed, so it's like a quarter round. And these will be fitted in on the top like this. This is a little piece I use as a gauge to put underneath to tell how long each step has to be, and then I cut it off and run it through the router. Then this will be like offset slightly, because there's going to be a strip in between the two pieces. But once it's all put together, it'll look like the top step is a thick, heavy maple board. So anyway, I wanted to show, I've got this step here, and then the next one. The first boards are not going to overhang the edge. They just have to fit in the space here. And the sides are not exactly precisely 90 degrees on either side. It's just hard to get everything measured exact, especially with all the rough cut lumber. So I've figured a way, it's kind of cool to measure exactly what the angles and the size. I took a couple strips the same width as the board of this cardboard, and then I took an angle measurement to figure out how slightly off it is from 90 degrees, transferred that to the cardboard, and then cut it with an X-Acto knife. And then the second one, I did the same thing on this side. So you can line the two up and then spread it out and then tape it down. And then once it's taped, I can take it off, lay it over the board. This is the actual board. It's going to go in there. So I've got a good exact template, and I'll just trace it out and cut it out. All right, back to work again. Now I've got all the top tread boards done. They're all leveled and cut and beveled. Just have to glue and nail them in place. This is the first one I glued and nailed down. I've got to make sure very carefully, mark where each nail hole is going to go, because I don't want to hit another nail underneath somewhere. And I've been marking where nails are as I've gone along, that little X. And then I drill holes at different angles to hold the boards down tight. All of the tread boards, I made sure that the grain is this way so that they don't cup on the edges. And I even bought myself a jointer. It's a kind of a cheap one, but getting all these edges all nice and level and even to match up to the next board beside it. I did all these steps without the joiner, but it just is time consuming. So with the rest of the flooring I have to do, and then the cabinets, I figured the joiner will be a handy tool to have. So now what I have to do is nail down these tread boards and then finish the floor where the landing is here, and then do the quarter round trim underneath, and then give it a coating of clear, and these steps will be done except for the railings, which I can do later. All right, gotta get back to work. Getting to the end of the stairs finally. I've got all the tread boards in place, and I'm working on the floor on the landing. It's maple with a cherry center. I haven't stained the cherry boards yet. But I wanted to put in a little bit of a pattern, sort of a herringbone pattern on it. And then I've got to go back, and I've countersunk all the holes, and I've got to fill those in, then give it another final sanding, wipe it down, and then put poly on everything. So, and I've got this rugs and things just to walk on so it doesn't get dirty before I put the final poly coat. All right. Oh, and then I've got to put the trim piece around the bottom. and then I can go back to finishing the electrical, plumbing, insulation, sheetrock, blah, blah, blah. Okay, to work I must go. Okay, I've got the landing boards all installed, except I've got to go back in and fill in all the nail holes before the final sanding and finish, polyurethane finish. You can see the little maple strip in between. It looks really nice. And I've got the sort of a herringbone pattern in the corners. And now I am finishing up the trim on the bottom of each step, each tread. And I cut these strips, stained the edges. And these will go on top of the quarter round pieces that I measured out. And so it'll have this kind of a look to it. And sort of pick up that little maple strip between the two boards back here. And this will be all around the edges too. And that's it for the stairs, except for the railings. I can't wait to do that. They'll be all natural, have the bark peeled off and just stained logs and branches, and have a kind of a rustic natural look to it. Yeah, I like doing finish work. It's very creative, and I usually make decisions at the last minute as I'm doing something. Like this little strip here, I decided at the last minute, hey, I think I'll put a piece in there. That and the fact that when I got the boards laid out, the two cherry pieces were just too small to fit in exactly. So that's where that idea came from. All right, gotta finish this up, get back to work. Oh, all right, just doing a little recording. The next step in my step construction, I am attaching these little trim strips, these pieces here, underneath each of the treads, and then this will go like that, and then the whole thing will be covered with clear polyurethane. So it'll give the step an appearance of being thicker with a little bit of a accent contrasting trim, the cherry in between the two light natural woods. And what I'm doing is laying a bead of glue along and then holding it up in place. And it usually just stays there. The glue is pretty tacky. If not, I do have clamps. I can hold it in place. And then I'm going through my stapler. I've loaded in brads, and they will pop through the hardwood pretty well. It doesn't go completely in. And then I'll just take some pliers and twist off the end of it. That's what all these little ends are here. And then I'll take these pliers and clamp onto it and squeeze it. So if there's any pieces sticking up, it pushes it in. And it's working pretty well. And then when I get ready to put these pieces on, these quarter rounds, I'm going to drill a few holes, put glue on the two sides, and then just tap the nails in, countersink. And then I will fill it in with some wood filler, do a final sanding, and it should be ready to put the finished coat, which I may not do this year because it's getting cold. We ended up getting an early snowstorm a couple days ago. It's supposed to be in the 60s this coming week, so everything will probably melt off. But anyway, I'm out here in the cold working on this to keep my mind off politics. This is the day after Election Day. Everything is still up in the air, but I'm used to it. Typical Democrat. That's what we go through. All right, I've got to get back to work. The stairs are done, sort of. I've got all the trim in place. All the nail holes are filled in and sanded down. The last thing I had to do is underneath. I put screws in from the cherry riser boards into the maple treads on all the steps all the way down. Extra support. And the only thing I've got left to do is give it a coat of polyurethane and then do the railings, of course. But it's too cold in the season now to do the poly, so I'll wait until spring. I'll probably do all the kitchen cabinets at the same time. And now I've got to finish putting up some wall partitions upstairs in a couple of places, and then get back to the electrical. And then I've got to run some plumbing pipes here and there, and then insulate, and then do sheetrock. I'll probably do the ceiling first and then the walls after. All that over the winter, so by next spring, summer, be able to move in. All right, back to work. I just wanted to get a quick recording of, this is some sheetrock I just had delivered. They have free delivery, so you can't go wrong there. Saves me taking my pickup truck, loading and unloading. I've got 100 sheets of 4x8 half-inch sheetrock. This is for the next project. Now that the stairs are finished, I've got to finish the partitions in the upstairs. I just started putting up the wall here, this second bedroom, and then the bathroom. And this room, the bathroom, is going to have a unique curved glass block wall. It's kind of an expensive project, but it's part of the overall design of the house that I wanted to do. I think it's going to give it a certain style, and there's something about glass and wood and stone. And I've got glass blocks in some of the walls downstairs built into the chimney, and there'll be lights behind this. It's going to be overlooking the shower stall and the upstairs bathroom, but because they're glass blocks, you won't see through it. And I was thinking of putting some kind of lights behind it that can shine through, and it sort of ties into the lights in the little chimney wreath that I built in. So that's what I've got to do next. And then once I get the partition walls up, master bedroom, then I can finish doing the electrical, finish up plumbing and insulation and sheetrock. I've got all the, well, not all, but a big chunk of the sheetrock. I started recording this the other day when I had it delivered, and my son and I carried all this stuff inside, and oh, it's a lot of weight. But that's enough to do all the ceiling and most of the walls, but I will have to get more sheetrock. All right, back to work again. All right, the progress of the curved glass wall. I built a wooden base. It's about 10 inches off the floor. It's going to be wrapped with sheetrock. I'm going to score lines along the back of the sheetrock so I can bend it around this framework. And then the glass blocks will go up about 6 feet. I'm using 12 by 12 blocks. Hey, Jewel. And 8 by 8 blocks, because I know I can get those. Glass blocks are getting harder to find now. A lot of places that used to sell them aren't carrying them anymore. I wanted to get 8 by 12. I needed narrow ones to do the curve better, and I decided 8 by 8 blocks are more available. Doesn't seem to be a custom size, so I'm making the wall 6 feet, so it'll be 6 of the 12 by 12 blocks up to about there. And then the 8 by 8 blocks, making it 6 feet, I'm able to use those, and they will stack up to the same height at 6 feet. I also am trying to get a couple of them that are colored glass. I want the colored glass to match some of the stained glass, because I'm going to have transoms above all the doors with a little stained glass window, and of course I've got the stained glass window downstairs. But it's part of the whole theme of the house. You know, it's a solar house, so glass is very important. I don't know why glass blocks are harder to find. Maybe it isn't an architectural thing these days like it used to be, but I like it. And then the shower, this is the bathroom in here. The shower stall is going to be butted up against, there's going to be a second wall built inside here that goes up to the ceiling. And then behind the glass, I'm thinking of putting some kind of lights, like Christmas tree kind of lights, just for added ambiance effect. And then of course the lights in the chimney will all reflect against the glass wall when that's on, so it's just kind of a nice design feature. But the glass is going to go up to about there, and then I'm going to build another wooden framework like this above it up to the ceiling with sheetrock on the outside. Okay, it's getting cold out, so I need to get back to work. Okay, this is the latest on the glass block curved wall that I'm building. I've got the base built in, and then up above where all the glass blocks are going to be is going to be a curved wooden section that goes up to the ceiling. But what I'm doing, all of the walls upstairs, I am trying to build so that they're not attached to the ceiling now or yet. I want to leave the ceiling open so I can put the insulation and sheetrock all in large pieces instead of having to piece around walls. And then once the ceiling is in place, then the rest of the walls will go up to the ceiling. And of course above the doors, like on this section over here, there's going to be a transom built like the doors downstairs with a stained glass. So what I'm doing now to transfer this dimension, I laid out some strand board on top of this little mini wall, and then I traced out and cut the pieces out like this section here. And then I have the 2x4s that are all cut from the same dimensions as this wall, and I laid them out, then laid the strand board on top, and then screwed it in place so that I have one large section that will go up above. This line up here is where the wall will be pointed out here. This line right here is going to be the bottom of the sheetrock upper wall. So everything below that is going to be glass blocks. And I'm doing it this way because I want to build the framework and then put the glass in later, because I can't do the glass in these colder winter temperatures. So that's what I'm doing right now. This piece will go up above, and then there's going to be a second piece that will go up closer to the ceiling, have the same curve to it, and they'll be temporarily attached to the ceiling, and then I'll have a couple of 2x4 braces temporarily just to hold in place until I start putting in the glass blocks. All right, it's freezing cold out, and I got to get back to work. I love this window. I mentioned this before. It's a stained glass window I salvaged from an apartment building I used to live in. They were remodeling when I lived in Portland. And I always said, I'm going to build that into my house someday. And that window is going to be part of the design of the rest of the place, in a way. One of the things I'm doing above most of the doors, I'm going to put transom windows, and I'm going to build them out of cherry wood frame, and they're going to have the stained glass panels. I'm going to have to do some looking around to try and find something to match up. And one other design feature that I just decided on is this wall that goes into the master bedroom has a lot of wall space above the door, and I was going to put a transom and then decided, hey, I'm going to put a full-size window. I'm going to make a replica of the other window and put it at a angle, like a triangle shape above the door, to take up the volume of the space, and just tie in all the stained glass and the other features. Now I can hear my dog. He wants to go in. Hey, buddy. He's an old dog. He's 14, and he's set in his ways. He's losing his hearing and his eyesight. Hey, buddy, where are you? Yeah. All right, I had to recharge my battery. I ran out of battery yesterday. So anyway, what I was saying before is this wall that goes into the master bedroom, because it's such a large space, instead of just sort of a horizontal opening over the door like these other doors have, I plan to put transom stained glass windows that open. And I decided at the last minute, a lot of things that I do, I look at and then change the design in midstream, and to break up the largeness of the wall, I'm going to put a square window that matches the stained glass window that I salvaged years ago, the one that's in the window down there. It's going to be similar in size and design. The only difference is it's going to be tilted at a triangle shape above the door. The triangle edging will also match the roof lines, and so it'll really tie things in nicely. I have finished up a lot of these upstairs walls. Let me just climb through the wall here. This wall separates a bedroom and the upstairs bath. The toilet is under that bucket where it's going to be, and then the sink is going to be over here. That's the vent stack. It goes up into the larger vent stack, which will continue up through inside the ceiling and then out through the roof. Instead of going straight up, I didn't want to put vent stacks straight through the roof because the kind of avalanche snow that slides off these roofs would end up pushing it and causing leaks. So I'm going to vent it out through the eaves. Now this wall here, I had to build extra wide to accommodate plumbing. And then I realized, and these things happen as you build, you always have to think ahead 12 steps. The drain for the shower, I had to anticipate where it was going to be, and the plumbing underneath was all laid out before. And I realized it's in the wrong position. This hole here is where it has to really go now. So I have to pull that pipe out and just redo that. I also have to change the size of the pipe underneath. For some reason, when I was putting the pipe in, I put the size too small, so I have to rip that out and just put in the correct size. But it's no big deal. And then this curved wall is ready for the glass blocks. This center post is just a brace that's going to come out. I'm waiting until I get the glass up to the top to help support, and then those two braces there will also come out. So I will film some more as I finish up this window. What I'm doing is I'm building the wall, and then I'm going to draw out the size of the window and then put in the bracing at the angles it needs to be, and then cut through some of the 2x4s and then double brace it. Okay, I need to get back to work. All right, this is one of those tricky walls that I'm building here, so I want to kind of document the process. This stained glass window that's going above the door. What I am doing, I drew out the design on a flat piece of cardboard here. I don't know if you can really see it, but so I know the dimensions of the glass, and what I'm doing is building a frame that's going to sit in that wall. And then I took this piece of cardboard and drew it out to the dimension. And what I decided to do, instead of building the frame opening as I was building the wall, I'm building the wall first, keeping in mind that diamond-shaped window is going to go in there. So I'm placing studs where they need to be to frame up the window, and then I'm going to go back in and cut out the opening from some of the studs. So what I originally did is I lined this piece up against the wall and then marked all the points, and then I drew out the square or the diamond shape, and now I am measuring and piecing in the frame, and then there's going to be an inner frame which is going to be the exact size of the window opening that will go inside this frame. And the reason I'm doing this, I wanted it double framed because I am cutting out a piece of the wall, so I want it to be extra strong. And a couple of things you always have to think about. It's like a chess game, several steps ahead. That top plate, I had to install a couple of braces. Let me set this down here. Like this brace and this brace. So they had to be attached and nailed in from the top. So I had to wait before I attached this piece and then put these pieces in. And now I'm going to finish the other side over here, and then there's going to be a piece that goes from this angle to this angle, and then down from here down to this plate, and then this piece is going to be cut out of here. And there's also a tiny little notch that I'm going to cut out of here that the frame will fit into. And I hear my dog whining. He wants to go in. Poor old guy, he's getting so old he can't even come up the stairs anymore. Okay, buddy, I'll be there in a minute. Okay, back to work. Okay, I've got the square all pieced in. What I've got to do now is cut out this section here. It's going to be trimmed on those lines, and then I'll cut it in half and then use both sides for braces underneath here and over here, so it'll correspond with the braces that are on the top. And then the last thing I have to do is build another square that will fit right inside of this square, and that's going to be the dimension of the window itself. All right. It's been kind of a complicated wall to build. It's because it's an angle, like the ends where they attach, I couldn't use just a 2x4 because of the angle of it. So I had to rip up these two and then cut the angles. I could have used 2x6s and trimmed them down, but 2x6s are so expensive that this was a cheaper way to go. And then you got little detail things like this piece up here. Just a little piece of trim, but I had to measure the angles because it has to correspond with the angle of the wall, the angle of the roof line, and so I had to do a lot of measuring and remeasuring and recutting, but it will be a nice wall when it's done. And I need to finish up for the day. Okay, this wall is pretty much framed now. I just have to finish attaching that inner frame. I've got it secured in place, and I just have to screw it in. And this wall is ready for everything else that needs to be done, sheetrock and whatever. And then the last framing that I've got to do is this wall here, and then the closet is going to go against that wall, and the closet's going to have a little seating place above it. You can look out those windows. Okay, back to work. Well, I am almost done with the upstairs walls. They're pretty much all framed, except the last thing I'm working on is the walk-in closet in the master bedroom. And as usual, I come up with design ideas as I'm working, and I may have mentioned this before, but instead of just a squared off corner, I'm going to round the corner, and there's going to be 3 rows of glass blocks going up the corner, so they'll kind of tie into the glass wall that's in the other part of the room. And I wanted a way to let some light into the walk-in closet, so that's a good idea. And then on the top, of course, it's going to be a decking for a chair and just a place to sit. And then this wall on the side, I'm going to put steps that go up at an angle like this. And I came up with an idea. I'm going to take cut a cherry log and then block it up into like 20-inch pieces, and then split those pieces, peel the bark and finish it down so the split side will be the top of the stair tread. And then it'll be stained brown cherry like the rest of the house. It's that same combination of natural maple and cherry wood. And I'm going to do the same thing with the spiral staircase design. But I just wanted to show these two walls, because they're not connected and they're open on the top. I had to put in 2 studs and then brace them so that they're plumb and level, and then put the top plate across, and then there's going to be 2x6 joists above because it's a floor as well as the ceiling. And this is going to be the walk-in closet, and the door will be over on that side of the wall. And that's the progress so far, so I need to get back to work. Oh, and by the way, it's a beautiful day today. This time of the year in April, you never know. Last week we had a blizzard, and now it's almost 80 degrees. I've got t-shirt on, and all right, got to get back to work.